Well, can I add my welcome to Richards? My name's Chris. I'm the pastor here, and I'm going to be taking us through the passage this morning. It's so easy, isn't it, to get so caught up in things that we miss the point. At Christmas, in our family, we like to play board games. It's supposed to be fun. The problem is, when me and my sister get together, we're quite alike, and we're quite competitive. You may have the same problem in your families at Christmas time. So that game that we're supposed to be playing for fun gradually becomes anything but. We get so caught up in it that actually we start to miss the point of what we're doing. We get so caught up that we miss the point, in that case, fun. Well, this morning's talk is actually the second talk that I wrote for this morning. On my computer, you'll find a whole other one that I wrote. I got to the end of it and I thought, nah, it's not really there. It's got lots of jokes about kings. It's got lots of Christmas references, retold the story of the passage that we've had read. But as I finished writing it, I realised that I got so caught up in the writing that I'd missed the point of the talk altogether. Because my main thing this morning is not to entertain you. I'm not Robbie Williams, you may have noticed. I'm not Ant and Dec or Morecambe and Wise. They do a great job at what they do, but it's not my job this morning. My job is to call you to follow Jesus and to warn you of the peril of not following Jesus. So my job's not merely to sort of make up a bit of time before we have mince pies. It's to make sure that you don't miss the point of what Christmas is all about. So instead of retelling the story of the three kings, I'm just going to talk to you this morning about the gifts that they brought. Because contained in those gifts is an outline of the life of the one that they gave them to, Jesus Christ. Whether they knew it or not, their gifts tell us three crucial things about Jesus that if we miss, we've missed Jesus altogether. You see, Jesus was so much more than a babe lying in a manger, so much more than a moral teacher or religious prophet. I want you to see this morning that Jesus was the most important person who ever lived, and that actually everybody needs Jesus in their life. Everybody, whether you're a plumber, a painter, a stay-at-home mum, a retiree, a school child, everybody needs Jesus. You need Jesus this morning. Now you might be thinking, why? My life's okay as it is. Don't I have nearly everything that I need? Well, these wise men are a case in point, aren't they? They had nearly everything. They were virtual kings in their own countries in the East. And yet they left their home. They left everything to come and find Jesus. Even though they had to travel miles, even though it was them bringing the gifts, not receiving them, they didn't leave disappointed. There's an old saying, wise men sought for Jesus. Wise men still do. And so what do we see that's so potentially life-changing and incredible about these gifts? Well, they show us who Jesus was, what he came to do, and they show us deep down what we really need. So first of all, gold. We need a king. The first gift was gold. Now, gold is associated all the way through history with kings, and it shows us that we need a king. Now, again, you might be wondering why. You know, isn't a king just a guy in a sort of fancy hat who sits in a big chair trying not to talk about his family too much? Isn't it just someone who's an expert at sort of shaking hands and doing that weird wave that they do instead of a normal wave? But in the Bible, a king was something different. The king was one who fought the battles for the people against their enemies. The king was the one who administered justice to the nations. He made sure that justice was done. He protected the people and he made sure that they were looked after. That's why often in the Old Testament it talks about kings like shepherds, those who cared for the sheep, those who fought off wolves and bears, who went and gathered up the lost ones. And I want to say this morning that we need a king. The gold in that gift from the wise men showed that Jesus was to be a king, not a distant one on a throne off somewhere away from his people, but a real king, one who would fight his people's battles, one who would administer justice. And in the end, don't we long for that? In life, there are battles that we can't win by ourselves. I mean, the world around us tells us constantly to search for the hero inside ourselves, that a hero lies in you. That's the other Mariah Carey song, apart from the Christmas one. But in the end, all that does is pile up pressure to be something that deep down we know we're not. To fight and lose battles because we're told that we have to do it in our own strength. I think most of our search for the hero inside ourselves, when we look inside, we find we're not all that heroic. Actually, there's much darkness inside us. There's much insecurity that we just don't let other people see. But thankfully, we don't need a hero deep inside ourselves. We need a hero outside ourselves. A king who will fight our battles for us, with us. And that king is Jesus. Jesus Christ, the one born here. We need him. He's also a king, though, who administers justice. Just as there are battles that we can't fight, there are wrongs in life that we can't right. There are things that we've had done to us, things that we've done to others, and they can haunt us. We can't undo them, and that frustrates us. I know it frustrates me. Do you ever wish in life that you had a sort of rewind button, or you could just press Control Z or even Control Alt Delete and just restart the whole thing? But life's not like that. And so we need someone who can deal with those things that we've done wrong. Someone who can sort those things out. Someone who can bring justice, who can right the wrongs that we can't. The problem is, though, that when we call for justice, we know deep down that we get as good as we give. We don't just have a problem, we're part of the problem. Taylor Swift in her song Anti-Hero puts it like this. It's me, hi. I'm the problem, it's me. At tea time, everybody agrees. I'll stare directly at the sun, but never in the mirror. It must be exhausting always rooting for the anti-hero. She's saying there that we're brave enough to stare into the sun. But looking in the mirror, looking into ourselves, that's much scarier. Because as much as we call out for justice for ourselves against others, we know that others are doing the same. If we demand justice, we know deep down we'd be in just as much trouble as they would be. And that's why the second gift is needed. Frankincense. We need a priest. Frankincense was an aromatic resin normally used by priests in the Bible in incense burners. They put it on top of sacrifices too to add a touch of sweetness to the smell. I bought some on eBay this week, so if you want to actually know what it smells like, I've got some with me this morning. You can have a smell afterwards. But frankincense pointed to the fact that Jesus would be a priest. Now, when I think of priests, I think of men in pointy hats, not the Santa hats, the other hats. I occasionally get asked if I'm a priest, given my position as pastor. But I generally tell them I don't look that good in a frock, which is why I don't go with that. But the fact of the matter is, again, that priests are not what we think they are. In the Bible, a priest was a go-between, a sort of negotiator almost. I worked in an office for a couple of years, and when I got there, there was an official mediation going on. So they had a guy that would come in and he would speak to the staff and they would sort of air their grievances, and then he would go to the management and he would talk to them on our behalf, and then he would listen to the management's grievances and bring them back to us. The guy was a mediator in the Bible's language. He was a priest in that way, because a priest's job was to mediate between God and man, to stand in the gap, to be a bridge between the two. He would teach the people what God required, speaking to people for God, and he would offer up prayers and sacrifices for the people when they sinned, when they broke the law or rebelled, speaking to God for the people. Throughout the Bible, people could not just walk up to God, approach God as they felt like it. They would be destroyed by his awesome holiness, a bit like that scene in Indiana Jones where they open the ark, that sort of idea. The demand for justice we talked about would be met, but partly by their own destruction. So a priest would stand in their place on their behalf to plead for them. But priests in the Old Testament were never really made the grade, because actually they were plagued by the same problems as the people that they were praying for. Even the best of them could only enter God's presence one time a year, and only then for a short while. But enter Jesus. He wasn't a priest in the formal sense. He didn't have a frock or a hat. He wasn't from the right tribe of Israel to be a priest. But the Bible is adamant that he was. In fact, a better priest, a better mediator than had ever gone before. He could stand before God for man, being a man, and he could stand before man for God, being God. He was the ultimate go-between. And that's what we celebrate at Christmas, isn't it? That God became a man, so he could be our ultimate priest. We can't stand before God for ourselves. It doesn't work. We need a priest who can stand before God for us, who can plead for us before God. But you might be wondering, well, what can he plead? What argument can he make? He can't plead not guilty, because we know deep down we're not guilty of everything, but we're guilty of some things. I've hurt people. I've done things that I've known were wrong. And I think we all have, if we're being honest. So great, we have a priest, but what can he actually plead? What can he actually do? Well, so our final gift, myrrh. We need a sacrifice. Now, myrrh is a really weird gift for children, okay? I mean, really weird. It would be weird buying aftershave. That would be a strange gift for a child, wouldn't it? A walking stick, or, one of those frame things. That would be very strange. My dad once bought me wood glue for Christmas. That is a true story. That was weird that he bought me that. I'll tell you the story afterwards if you like. But it's even weirder than that. Because it would be like buying a child a tombstone or a plot of land in a cemetery or one of those funeral plans that they're always selling on daytime TV. Myrrh was a strong smelling resin used to hide the smell of dying things. Jesus had a large amount put on his body when he died. I won't go into the mechanics of it all now, but that's mostly what it was used for. So these wise men, as they give this, they seem to have a notion that this child was somehow born to die. And they were right. He was sent from heaven on a mission to be that king, to be that priest, yes, but the main part of his mission was to die. Now, I know that sounds a little bit strange to talk about at a family carol service, but actually this is the heart of what Christmas is all about. Why? Because it was out of sheer love that this child would go on to offer his own life in exchange for ours. His plea to God would be that justice had been served because he had taken the price that we deserve to pay on himself. And so that's his plea for us out of love, not guilty, but paid in full. Time served, justice meted out already, no more to pay. Christ is not only our priest who stands before God the Father for us, but he is also the sacrifice in our place that the priest would offer. And he offers us that sacrifice as a gift to us. A sacrifice we receive by faith, by trusting in what he's done, by having him as our king, our priest, our sacrifice. No longer depending on our own goodness, but on his sacrifice. It would be like doing a swap of lists at Christmas. You know that song says that he has a list. Here you go, my list. Imagine looking down on it and it says, lied, cheated, bad-mouthed, stole, was jealous of other people. You might think, well, am I getting any presents? But then someone comes along and says, hey, give me your list. I'll deal with that. Here, you have my list. Jesus' list. And you look down and it says, never lied, never cheated, never bad-mouthed, never stole, was never jealous, always did what was right, never did what was wrong. Jesus takes all our wrongness and in its place gives us his rightness. It's like he's done a swap of the lists. He takes our distance from God that we all feel and gives us his closeness instead. He doesn't tear our list up, that wouldn't be justice, but he makes our list his list instead. The Bible says it's like he nailed that list to the cross and died with it. What love to offer that swap to us. What love not to leave us as we are. So my question this morning is, will you take that swap? Will you accept Jesus' loving sacrifice? Or will you just carry on as before? I want to make sure this morning that you don't miss the point. I'm here to tell you that you need a king, a priest, and a sacrifice. If you don't have a king, a priest, and a sacrifice, that is to say, if you don't have Jesus, then your list is your own. You will fight your own battles that you cannot win, face a God you cannot appease, and face a future without hope. Now, I'm not saying that to crush the mood. I know this isn't going to get us 5 stars on TripAdvisor for the family service, but I'm telling you this because it's true. God loves us so much, though, that he's provided a way out by sending his son into the world, which is what we remember at Christmas time. A son who would be our king, priest, and sacrifice. So look, I hope you have a really happy Christmas. I genuinely do. I'm going to have lots of fun being beaten at Pictionary, music quizzes, and card games by my sister. I'm just really hoping this year my kids don't beat me at the games. But please don't get so caught up in celebrating Christmas that you miss the point of what Christmas is all about. Don't get so caught up in the tinsel trees and turkey, but miss the whole reason that this is celebrated in the first place. We're so good at getting distracted, aren't we, that we miss things while we're still here. Wise men sought for Jesus. Wise men still do. We're going to sing a song about those wise men and their gifts and what they point us to. Why not have a think about what we said during the song? It's We Three Kings, classic, and we'll stand to sing.